Story 1. The Well in the Woods. I have to mark content of it. When I was 6, my twin brother and I spent our summers with our babysitter, a sweet, middle-aged woman and her kind husband. They lived on a big property in southern Ohio, surrounded by woods. It was paradise for kids. A pool, four-wheelers, a huge playhouse, even fireworks on the 4th of July. They were wealthy, though I never knew how. Neither of them worked, but as a child, I didn't question it. I just loved being there. One summer afternoon, my friend, their granddaughter, and I got mad at the boys for being, well, boys, rough, loud, and annoying. So we wandered off to pick wildflowers by the forest. What we thought was baby's breath turned out to be poison hemlock, typical 6-year-old genius behavior. As we walked, we noticed a narrow path cutting through the trees, worn, but strangely neat, like it had been walked for years. Curiosity got the best of us, and we followed it. The path wound deep into the forest until we reached a small wooden bridge. Oddly, the creek below it was completely dry, nothing but cracked dirt. We crossed anyway, and found ourselves in a sunlit clearing surrounded by large stones in a circle. In the middle stood a massive stone well, wide enough to walk into, with steps carved into the sides spiraling downward into darkness. My friend tossed a rock in. We waited. Nothing. No splash, no echo, just silence. As she looked for more rocks, I started examining the stones around the clearing and realized they weren't just rocks, they were headstones, carved with names and dates. We were standing in an old graveyard. That's when my friend went quiet. She pointed to the opposite side of the clearing. A dark figure stood there, tall, human-shaped, cloaked in long black robes with a hood covering its face. We froze. It didn't move until the clouds passed over the sun, casting shadows across the clearing. Then it stepped forward. That was all it took. We ran, screaming, crying, tripping over roots. My friend reached the bridge first. When I looked back, the figure was standing right at the edge of it, motionless. I screamed louder than I ever had in my life and kept running until we burst out of the woods into the backyard, hysterical. Her grandfather came running. They bathed us, comforted us, and told us it was just our imagination. But we refused to go near the woods again for months. I have to mark N in the Marigold. The next summer, during their big 4th of July party, one of the older boys teased us for making up ghost stories. He didn't believe us, so he made us show him where the path was. We reluctantly led him to where we remembered it, but it was gone. The edge of the woods was overgrown with thick hemlock. No path, no bridge, nothing. He pushed his way in anyway and came out covered in chigger bites from neck to ankle. He got in trouble for dragging us down there, but honestly, I was relieved. I never wanted to see that place again. Everyone wrote us off as dramatic kids with wild imaginations. I have to mark N in the Marigold. 15 years later, when I was 22, my mom told me that my old babysitter's husband had hung himself in their garage. His granddaughter, my childhood friend, was the one who found him. He'd left behind stacks of notebooks dating back to the 1970 seconds. Inside, he'd written about making deals with demons for wealth and protection. He wrote that those entities had finally come to collect, and they wanted his family as payment. In his final letters, he apologized to his wife for leaving her, saying it was the only way to protect her. To his granddaughter, he wrote, "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from the demon at the well." Authorities dismissed it as the ramblings of a mentally ill man. The family burned the journals and moved on. I have to mark, and some. I can rationalize almost everything: the poison hemlock, our shared panic, maybe even hallucinations. But I can't explain why we both saw the same thing, or why his letters mentioned that exact well. To this day, I still have the scar on my knee from when I fell running away. I'm not afraid of the woods or the dark, but I don't mess with what's buried beneath them. Like Ducky said, nope, nope, nope. Story 2. In 2016, my boyfriend, now my husband, and I went camping in eastern Pennsylvania. It was one of those primitive camping spots, totally free, No cell service, barely a road, just pure wilderness. We only saw 2 people that day. They might not be connected to what happened later, but they both gave us the creeps. The first was a woman with her truck pulled off the side of the road, hood popped open. She looked like she was waiting for someone to stop. Normally, my boyfriend never hesitated to help someone, but this time he didn't even slow down. He said something about her seemed off. She wasn't waving for help, she was just staring, like she expected us to pull over. I didn't see anything that strange at the time, but his instincts told him not to stop. The second person showed up later, after we picked a spot and were setting up our fire for hot dogs. My boyfriend noticed that the same car had driven past us several times. Each time, the man behind the wheel slowed down and watched us as he passed. It made us uneasy, but we tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was also looking for a good camping spot. The area was muddy, and there weren't many places dry enough to set up a tent. Still, it felt wrong. Eventually, he stopped coming by, and we decided to stay put. We spent the last few hours before dark laughing, cooking, and trying to shake it off. That night, sometime around 3 a.m., we were jolted awake by a sound that I will never forget. It was loud, mechanical, unnatural. My boyfriend later said it sounded like a chain gun spinning up. Another way he described it was like someone dragging a metal shovel across gravel and blasting the sound through a loudspeaker. He sat up immediately and looked through the tent window, but he couldn't see anything. The sound came again and again. I was frozen with fear. My boyfriend whispered that it was probably miles away and told me to go back to sleep. I wanted to believe him, so I did, but later, he admitted it sounded like it was coming from just down the road. He whispered only because he didn't want to alarm me. As we lay there, every rustle and snap outside sounded like footsteps circling the tent. I could feel my heart pounding. Then, after what felt like forever, my boyfriend leaned over and quietly said, "Get dressed. We're leaving." That's when I saw him unwrap the machete we'd bought for the trip. He'd kept it in plastic until that moment. We moved fast, packed everything, threw it in the car, and prepared to leave. Before getting in, I noticed something strange near our dead fire. A beer can. It hadn't been there before, and we hadn't brought any beer. As we drove off, my boyfriend told me what he'd been thinking. He said he didn't want to rush out of the tent right away because he thought someone might be trying to lure us out. He even half expected our gas to be siphoned, but thankfully we were in a hybrid, so it wouldn't have stopped us completely. We were terrified, laughing nervously and shaking from the adrenaline. I remember joking, "Number of brutal murders avoided by driving a hybrid, 2. But honestly, it wasn't really a joke. For the rest of that trip, we only stayed at busy campgrounds or got hotels. We never camped in a remote spot again.